Yeah.
Welcome everybody to the Sports Wrap. George Ringer, glad to be back. We've been on hiatus for a while. What's the right word, George? Life occurrences?
Life occurrences is a way to go at it, and we just know from studying sports all our lives that things can happen very quickly and do.
Yeah.
And it's but anyway, it's good to be sitting here next to you.
It's good to be here.
Yeah.
There were some tense moments over the last week on whether that was going to be occurring anymore. Not to get to be too whatever, but I got to spend a few days in the hospital,
You did?
and it looks like with some medications and maybe a procedure, everything will be good for Tim and Ringer here. So hopefully we'll. Let's just hope that it keeps going in all that positive direction. But
I think that's a good idea.
So while we've got 3 weeks of stuff worth to talk about, and obviously we're not going to talk about all of that. But
No, we can't.
Where would you like to start?
Well, I tell you, I want to start with the Big Ten.
Okay.
Big Ten football. We have this is the strangest season I've ever seen. I take a look at it, and Michigan and Nebraska, they're both playing poorly. Indiana and Maryland are playing very well. Northwestern and Indiana are undefeated. Penn State and Nebraska have yet to win a game. They play on Saturday, by the way, so that little thing's going to end.
Yeah.
And Minnesota is kind of stuck in the middle, and also, Maryland, like they're playing real well. Northwestern beat them by 40 points.
It's strange. That's probably the best way. When the Gophers played Maryland a couple Fridays ago,
Yeah.
38-28, when I fall asleep in the chair, I wake up the next morning and they lost in overtime, and I'm like, oh, you guys lose to Maryland. What's going on? Well, then Maryland thumps Penn State last week, and you're kind of going, okay, maybe that Gopher loss to Maryland isn't so bad on the road. And then, the Gophers took care of business against Illinois, and the running game looked really good. What do you think of this Potts kid? I know we're going to talk about Mo Ibrahim, but what do you think about this Potts kid before he got injured?
I'll tell you, you have to have 3 running backs in the Big Ten. And Ibrahim, he is just extraordinary. 224 yards and 4 touchdowns. But Pottsy, he picked up the pace a couple of times, and he had some really nice runs. And you can't keep Mo in the game the whole time. He's going to have to take a break.
Yeah.
And so Potts came down and he got injured. I don't know if he's going to be back for tomorrow night. He's kind of a day-to-day thing. He did practice yesterday.
Okay.
I tell you, the Gophers, I get the Gopher thing, and so I get PJ Flex podcast. It's pretty interesting. Today they had Boya Mafi and Tanner Morgan on. These kids, they communicate very well. They're very intelligent, very articulate, very nice people. And they asked Tanner Morgan, what's this? He says, there's more important things than football, like racial equality. Where did that come from? And so, you see this young group, and listen to PJ talk about it. They're interested in the kids. I know they all want to win, and they all want to, do real well. But the kids come out on top on this team.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we can. People may or may not like PJ Fleck, but I think in the end, he's always looking at the bigger picture. I mean, winning is important, but the other things are important as well. And of course, it looks like we're going to have a host of games not going to be played this week, especially in the SEC, Alabama, LSU. I think I saw today, and I didn't write it down, but I think Ohio State ended up being canceled for this week.
I think it is too, yeah.
Due to the other team with so many COVID tests. And I wonder, well, I'll say it this way. I believe that there were 30 high school teams over the last 24 hours when I looked this afternoon that had canceled high school games here in Minnesota.
Ooh.
That had either volleyball or football games that had been canceled because of the virus. I was talking with head coach Seth Edestead yesterday after school, and I said, what's the playoff picture looking like? And he says, well, Moose Lake is supposedly out. Eveleth is definitely out. They announced that today for sure. Eveleth is done. They announced that on the Mesabi Daily News. They are done for the season.
Duluth,
no playoff.
Duluth Public Schools.
Duluth Public Schools are out, and then they're saying Royalton is also contemplating shutting the season down. So right now, Section 7 2A may be down to 3 teams: Mesabi East, the Falls, and Crosby Ironton.
Wow.
So we were thinking that next Tuesday there was going to be a home playoff game. Well, there won't be a home playoff game next Tuesday. It'll probably be possibly a home playoff game next Friday if everything gets out to there. I mean, if the virus doesn't take over. And Caledonia, we know all about Caledonia football and their run of 74 straight wins, some ungodly number. They just shut their program down today.
Wow.
Absolutely. They said the season is done. They announced to kids to make sure you turned in your game pants on Thursday after school. They're done. And so I know the Broncos host Greenway tonight. When you watch this GNK, I was 2 days ago. I thought for sure that game would be canceled when Itasca County basically said we're stopping the tracing. We're just assume everybody's got it and play the game. And I'm like, well, Greenway is kind of right in Itasca,
smack dab in the middle of it,
right there in Itasca County. So are they going to be making the trip to the Falls? And so this is. I don't know how much more sports we're going to be talking. You know, I suppose we could theoretically go back to our Zoom way of doing this, although it's much better to do this in person with you, George. But I don't want to keep bringing us down, but I just wonder how much sports, Big Ten football, the basketball teams, both the men's and the women's basketball team for the Gophers have shut down practice. So while they try to get things under control,
women have been allowed back.
Okay,
but not the men.
So you start looking at that, and then of course today was National Signing Day for basketball, and the Gopher women did pretty well with the Minnesota folks.
Horowitz, you know this young girl from Roseau? You must have seen her.
Well, I think she is she might be the youngest of the Borovitz girls. Borovitz. I think there's 4 of them, and a couple ended up out at North Dakota way. And this one's been wanting to go play for the Gophers, and they said in the article that I read today, somewhere along the way, that they've been sending her game film. The Gophers have been sending her game film this fall because they knew she was going to sign and everything else. So, and this, is it Trayson Thompson that we read about in the mini?
Trayden Thompson, yeah. He was from Austin, and then he went to
Alexandria,
and then he went to...
but he's to Indiana, and then he said, I want to start bringing in the Minnesota. I want to start being the influx, and I'm like, hallelujah.
We've been seeing a lot of basketball talent from Minnesota leave.
Yeah,
and he's absolutely right, and I think he's going to help out a whole bunch. There's another 6'11" guy from Sweden, and he's playing right now in Kansas.
Okay,
and he's committed, and so they're bringing in 2 6'11s, and this year. They've got 4 juniors and 1 senior, and they have an awful lot of experience for the Big Ten because there aren't a whole lot of teams with 4 or 5 juniors. And so they have these older kids in there, and I think that they're going to do real well. Let me see when I didn't mean to jump around like that.
No, that's my doing. So both Gotch or however you say his name, got
Booth Gotch.
Booth got cleared.
Booth Gotch, he transferred from Utah, and I'll tell you, he really fills Rick Pitino's lineup real well. And when you go look and take a look at what they have a Marcus Carr, 6'2" junior guard, Gabe Kelcher, 6'4" junior. The other guard, Booth Gotch, and he's 6'6", but he can sky, and so he can play either the shooting forward or the guard. And Brandon Johnson, he's the transfer from Michigan or Western Michigan, I guess he was at, and he's 6'8". I think he might be a key.
Okay.
And then they have Liam Robbins, who's the 7-foot junior. So they're bringing in some good size, but Booth Gotch. He was the key to this whole team this year, I think.
Yeah, and they kept waiting to announce if he was going to be eligible, and so he is, and so that's great news for Gopher basketball. So
this Kenny Poto, the one from Sweden, he's a shooter.
Okay.
6'11", and he's got a great 3-pointer, and he doesn't particularly play with his back to the basket as well, but he handles the ball well and can shoot. So it should be fun to see him come on. And then Lindsay Whalen got Borovitz. How do you Borovitz. And Maggie Sisano from Watertown Mayor, she led her team, I think, to the state championship last year, and she's, I guess she's a real piece of work as well. And then Alana Michio from she's from Michigan. She's a 6'2" power forward. So they have. They've got some people.
They've got some people.
Lindsay Whalen is going to be a draw. She is going to recruit. There's no two ways about that.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. So, I'm looking forward to hopefully these obviously these girls and guys that we're talking about right now won't be there till next year, but hopefully we're going to get a chance to see these teams this winter. Let's hope. We'll hope, and of course that's what we're waiting for to see what happens. So, You want to stay? Got anything else for basketball, or you want to head back to football?
Yeah, I just want to. You when you were down at the U of M, you must have had some involvement with the Floyd of Rosedale games.
Floyd of Rosedale. The one year we won the game. I got a great picture of Floyd with his Zuba shorts on.
Oh yeah.
That we put on him, and all us taking a bite out of Floyd of Rosedale because he tasted so good that night. Yes. Yeah. The equipment staff, we had to make sure that trophy got home and got to the right places. So we got to pose. We got to pose.
You brought it back from Iowa.
Actually, we won it at the Dome.
At the Dome?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you might not know this, but Minnesota has been in a severe bacon shortage. and the only way to fix this is to keep Floyd of Rosedale here when they bring it up tomorrow. Right now, coming off the best all-around season, Mohamed Abraham has had a great night the other night. He got the Offensive Player of the Week award, Big Ten. Coach PJ describes Abraham as a coach's dream in terms of attitude, work ethic, and leadership. And, of course, he's one of the top running backs in the country.
And he delivered donuts to the linemen. That's the best.
Hey, there you go. The offensive line did give Abraham gapping holes in that defense sometimes. Yeah. And then there were other times, he's not very big. He's not overly fast, but he does hit with a punch. And he was breaking tackles, but when they give him gapping holes, he just blew through them. And he's an awful lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's worth the whole thing. And so, when they interviewed Tanner Morgan, he says, we have it so it all works together. Of course, he's talking about the running game, and he's talking about Bateman and Achman Bell as their wide receivers. And if they get that thing coordinated, and they just might, they certainly did a pretty good job. 41 points the other day, and the running game. If they get Potts back, also I think their kicking is going to improve. They got their guy back. Hey, the whole kicking squad lived in one house, and they came down with a viral infection. Go figure.
Ah.
Okay. Anyway, they got a good combination, and I think I think Tanner Morgan goes up there and he looks like he's about 30 years old, and he's just a young guy. He's shaved that, but he's very articulate. He knows what he wants to say. He's an interesting guy. Catch a podcast on the Gopher Network. Now, defense. That was the issue.
There was the thing you hadn't talked about yet, and that's the thing that's a little shaky.
That is, and Mafi had his best start. That was his first start this year.
Okay.
But he is leading the Big Ten in sacks at 3.4. He's fourth on the team in tackles with 12, considering he hasn't been starting. And so they asked Fleck, why isn't he starting those things? He says he's having trouble against the run. He's pass rushing. He has the edge down, but I think they had to overcompensate for a couple of defensive tackles that are just now coming. And defensive tackles are there to make the linebackers look good. I don't care which way you take a look at it.
Absolutely.
And right now, the linebackers have to come on. I think the cornerbacks are playing a little bit better, but the linebackers are coming on. And if they can cover that edge, and Mafi, I think he really is going to be a dandy. He is so athletic. He was jumping over people like he was 135 pounds. You know, but his tackling, his line tackling, has to improve. And you know, if they're going to row the boat on defense, they gotta rush the passer, especially down in Iowa. That turns out tight ends like we build bridges, and they have to have very active linebackers, and the down linemen have to play a real good game. Otherwise, they're not going to win. Kicking game should improve. Like I say, all the kickers live together.
Well, you know, the last time we did the show was right before the Michigan game, and I had said that the Gophers would beat Michigan, and of course I looked good early in the game, but Michigan overpowered them, and then of course Michigan hasn't won since, so it kind of,
No, Michigan's, you know, my good friend Mr. Harbaugh he's running a little bit scared right now. Michigan-Wisconsin game is going to be a game that should be interesting to watch.
Definitely.
Wisconsin's 13 in the nation, where they played one game.
Yep. Yeah.
And so, you know, it's got to see what's going to happen there, but it's going to be a dandy, and I think Michigan is going to go down swinging.
Wow, that's yeah. And Jim Harbaugh will be going down swinging at the end of the. Anyway, well, I digress because he's not going to beat Ohio State, and he already lost to Michigan State. So, whoofda.
Well, and this is what we have here. Other games: Indiana and Michigan State.
Man, we haven't even talked about how good.
No.
How good's Indiana, folks?
I think Indiana is good. They are very good.
How good is Indiana at 3-0 and beating Penn State and Michigan? Yeah, I don't know, man.
And Ohio State and Maryland and Northwestern and Purdue, and I think that Northwestern Purdue is also a very important game. Wisconsin, Michigan, and of course on Friday, Minnesota hosts Iowa, and that should be. It should be an interesting weekend.
So what do you think of Notre Dame and Clemson?
I thought Notre Dame and Clemson was as much fun watching a football game as I've seen in a long time. But the Irish do not know how to social distance after they rush the field. So that brought on real consequences.
Yeah.
Every one of those kids, if they leave campus, if they leave where they're supposed to be, or do anything, they'll hold their records. And so
you won't get to register for next semester.
You won't get to register.
I'm just like, you know, I guess I understand the celebrating. I could not believe how many people they had in the stands.
And
then I couldn't believe how many people were on the field. I'm like,
where did they all come? It didn't look like 2,000 people to me. It looked more like 5.
At least.
Yeah,
so,
you know.
And of course, it like I said, it is what it is. But it was just it was kind of mind-boggling to witness what was going on.
No, you know, and it was amazing. Clemson brought in this freshman quarterback, and you said, well, Trevor Lawrence would have made a big difference. Geez, the kid threw for over 400 yards, and was very effective moving the ball. And I just thought, geez, Trevor Lawrence is going to go somewhere and disappear in the NFL. Clemson's just got some people that are just going to stay, and you know, it's amazing how much talent that this kid has.
They do. It's kind of scary, and AJ Ulalala.
Yeah, his dad was a bouncer for musicians, and he was about 350 pounds, and he was standing up there and just enjoying the show.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a very good quarterback. Like I said, Clemson probably won't skip a beat over the next couple of years because it looks like they're ready to go.
Yes, they are.
Did you? I want one more college football. Yeah. Did you end up seeing the end of Arizona State USC?
I did see the end of the.
I was taking a nap on Saturday, I think a little bit, and I woke up and I'm like, yes, USC is losing 27-14. So I started watching it, and about the time I turned it on was about the time that USC turned it on as well, because they got right back into the ball game and ended up hanging on. You just never know. You keep playing till the final whistle.
And like you say, you really don't know what's going to happen. And besides, those kids are trained to do that, and they've been trained to do that since they were in 5th grade. Pretty good group of people.
You want to talk about Sunday football next?
We can talk about some Sunday football.
You want to talk about Delvin Cook, maybe?
I'll tell you what. If you have to ever buy a ticket to watch somebody play football, Delvin Cook would be the one that I'd choose. He was something.
It was brought up. Excuse me. It was brought up this week if he is the best running back in football. So I ask you, who has been defending Derrick Henry vehemently since the start of this football season, is Delvin better than Derrick Henry?
Well, no, they're two different kinds. They're two different kinds of running backs.
Yeah.
But right now, for the Vikings, I would say this: that Delvin Cook is more capable of helping the Vikings than Derrick Henry will do for the Titans. Not that Henry's not really good. He is.
He's very
and
good.
he is so strong and so big. He reminds me something of how Bronco must have looked like. Especially he's got
he's
got that foot-long ponytail that he'll poke your eye out with. Derrick Henry is a very fine football player.
The thing that surprised me about the Vikings game on Sunday was you don't see a lot of toss sweep anymore. You don't see the quarterback turn around and pitch the ball. I mean, that was 30 years ago. Walter Payton and all those guys.
Half the plays.
Man, that was a major portion. And on the one play that I think everybody probably remembers in the fourth quarter, the Vikings were going right to left, and they were on about their own 40-yard line. And for about the 8th time in the game, old Cousins turned around and he pitched that ball back, and there were two Lion jerseys running right at him. And I'm like, crap, he's going to get tackled for about a 4-yard loss. And it was just like, zing, zing,
Zoop, 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 gone.
and I'm just like, oh my! It was unbelievable. He's from scrimmage now, over 225 yards the last 2 games. Only 2 other players have ever done that. Jim Brown, and I'd forgotten all about the other player who had done this. I mean, not that I knew this stat before I saw it on ESPN the other day, but Deuce McAllister. I forgot all about Deuce McAllister. But he had 2 games, I think, in 2004 where he had over 225 yards from scrimmage. Delvin came off of an injury against Seattle, missed a game, and right now, they were giving mid-season awards for MVPs and everything else, and I love what Patrick Mahomes and some of these other quarterbacks are doing. But if you look at the Vikings team, if the Vikings don't have Delvin Cook, I understand Alexander Mattison. I love him, good running back.
Yeah, he is.
But can he do the things that Delvin Cook is doing right now? No, really. Delvin Cook has to go into a conversation for the MVP if he continues these types of numbers in any form or fashion, because he is. And
he got that very, very fancy contract, and I tell you what, he wasn't overpaid, as it turns out.
Yeah. A few weeks ago, I think we were all doubting it.
Yeah.
And here's the scarier part: the offensive line really hasn't gotten better per se, personnel-wise, but they must have got something figured out protection-wise. Kubiak must have figured something out that they can do well.
They put Big Ezra in that guard.
They put Ezra in at the guard, and they've been playing with. I think they've been playing with more tight ends. Again, I think obviously with the running game, and like I said, I think they changed some of the plays. The pitch, let Delvin get out there and let him use his vision. Must have great vision, and then let him do his thing. It's been fun to watch. I think a couple weeks ago I said right here, probably sitting right in this chair, that I was probably done watching the Vikings, but it's like a train wreck. 2 weeks ago they beat the Packers, which I didn't think could even possibly happen. I was pretty sure they were going to beat the Motor City Kitties, but they get their 3rd straight division opponent on Monday night at Chicago, right?
Yep.
And if Delvin runs against Chicago, who's got one of the best defenses in the NFL, if he runs like that, maybe the pundits might be right that the Vikings might have a chance to make the playoffs. Playoffs?
Well, you see, that can happen. That can happen.
Well,
let me just run over a couple of these other scores. New Orleans 38, Tampa Bay 3.
I don't like New Orleans because of what they did to the Vikings and the whatever that they did 10, 12 years ago. But to watch poor Tom Brady suffer in whatever was rather enjoyable. Thank you.
Pittsburgh 24, Dallas 19.
Now, that game I didn't get to see very much of. Pittsburgh's now 8-0, and ESPN's like, can they run the table? I'm like, the season's only half over. This is the NFL. That stands not for long. Pittsburgh might.
Big Ben's got COVID, so.
And Big Ben's got COVID, so now all of a sudden, let's take all that off the table. And I know my brother and my best friend from high school, they're big Steeler fans, so I have to definitely vote against the Steelers. And no, there's no way that they run the table. No way.
No, it can't happen. The New York Giants, 23, Washington 20. I was a little bit put back by that.
Yeah, I was as well.
And then Baltimore beat up Indianapolis, which was no surprise to me at all. And then, of course, you've got your Buffalo and Seattle, 44-34.
Seattle can't stop anything. Their defense is horrendous.
It really is bad. 44 points for Buffalo to be able to put that up.
Yeah, and our good friend Stephon Diggs is leading the league in reception and yards right now. And of course, everybody's like, "How could we let it?" You just wait for it, folks.
Okay.
Just wait for it, folks. He'll implode soon. He's gonna not get targeted, and he's gonna have a fit.
And we still got Jefferson, and he is talent.
He's talent.
He is a lot of talent. Now this week we've got Indianapolis and Tennessee on Thursday, which might bring some interesting things. On Sunday,
maybe catch that after the Bronco game. Maybe,
after the Bronco game.
If I'm not too cold.
Oh, yeah, not too cold. And then we got Houston at Cleveland, Jacksonville at Green Bay, Philadelphia at the Giants, Tampa Bay at Carolina, Washington at Detroit. At 3 o'clock games are Buffalo, Arizona, Denver at Las Vegas, the Chargers at Miami, Baltimore at New England, Cincinnati at Pittsburgh, which may or may not be, San Francisco at New Orleans, and Seattle at LA Rams.
That's the best game of the bunch, right?
And that's the best game of the bunch. And LA Rams, their defense is good.
Yeah. So we'll see. There's none of those games that really stand out for me and say, "Oh, I'm going to take some time out of my Sunday." But you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Sometimes it's nice if it's nice out and sunshiny and 60 degrees. It's nice to get outside, but I don't see that happening either.
So, where would you like to go to next?
Let me see. We've talked about Bronco.
Well, we haven't done. Let's stay with football. The Bronco football team. I think since we last spoke, absolutely thumped Eveleth 40-0 on the turf at MIB. Which I don't think surprised a whole lot of people other than that the Broncos scored 40. Big game. The shocker for me was 2 Fridays ago when they lost to Virginia 40-0 on their home field. And then last week they go to Two Harbors and on November 6th, it's 64 degrees in Two Harbors.
Yes.
And we know what the weather can be like in Two Harbors in the summer. You'd be lucky to get 64. But it was 64 balmy degrees, and the Broncos won 30-26 in rather exciting fashion. It was a game back and forth. I got to be honest. If the Broncos were to meet Two Harbors in the playoffs, and they can't, I think the Broncos would absolutely obliterate them the next time, make a couple of adjustments.
Well, let's talk about a couple of those adjustments because it was a different
This seems like a roller coaster.
It was a different team from the first quarter to the fourth. And as one wise man one time said, if they wouldn't have made those adjustments, he doubts very much that the game would have been won.
Yeah.
But you put Riley Larson back there, and you got Adam Smith back there, so they add a little bit of bulk to the. And also, and I don't want to hit this one too hard because, I love Bronco football. I saw a wedge block quarterback sneak for about 7-8 yards. It was just bam, and I thought, Two Harbors hasn't seen one of these in a number of years. I think it really caught them by surprise, and Ben Glowak runs it pretty well.
Yeah, he runs it pretty well, and unfortunately, I think on the play we're talking about, he ended up fumbling at the end of it, which was disappointing in the fact that the Broncos were driving, and that's why I feel they actually had 4 consecutive possessions that ended in turnovers in that game. So you kind of, I was listening to the Two Harbors announcer, and he's just like, we do not want to let the Bronco offense get back on the field because that's trouble. And the Broncos essentially had the ball last. They scored with 94 seconds left to go ahead, and then Two Harbors couldn't go back down the field and score. So it was 7-6 at halftime. The Broncos were behind, and then they ended up winning 30-26. And yeah, it was a fun game to watch. I'm sure as a coach it was very stressful, but I know I was yelling at my phone a couple of times.
See, the phone doesn't care, but it's.
I know, but I was hoping that maybe like my brainwaves would go all the way to Two Harbors to kind of say things. But I actually got some time over the last couple of days, and I actually got the stats done for Virginia. And there was a school record set in the Virginia game.
Virginia?
Not by Virginia, by us.
Yeah.
Ben Glowak attempted 51 throws in that snow and cold on October 30th. 51, and he completed 24 of them.
Well, but there was absolutely no running game
There was no running game.
And
they had 28 carries for 56 yards.
And I think what they were trying to do is, and we've talked about this, trying to get Riley Larson the ball more often, and that's what they were attempting to do. And of course, Riles, hey, he's a fine football player, but last week when they put him in the backfield,
good things happen.
He runs well.
So they played GNK on Thursday night. That's the final regular season game, and I know I'm been a pretty tough naysayer. It might be the final game of the season. Period. I just with everything that's going on virus wise, but hopefully not.
Well, and the fact of it is, it's still Greenway.
Still Greenway, and so Greenway will come with their power football, and it's going to be a cold night, and the Broncos will play. It'll be pretty similar temperatures to when the Broncos played Virginia, minus the snow, and. Anyway, 51 throws is an amazing number of throws, and you would guess that they probably called a couple other ones that ended up, turning into scrambles. So, but having said that, that's a lot of throws, even in the NFL. 51 is a lot of throws. So.
It is, and in fact, they talk about Joe Burrow's averaging 25 to 30 throws, and they says they're wise that way. He shouldn't be throwing 40 passes a game yet, and so that is a lot of plays.
It's a lot of plays. So
yeah.
So
I think I watched Two Harbors and then went right. This is in the Huddle program. Two Harbors and went right to Greenway, and when I saw the two teams, I thought, the Falls has an excellent chance of beating Greenway.
Yeah, I believe that to be true as well. If you look at things on paper and the way things have gone, the Broncos should be all right on Thursday night. So let's hope it stays that way. The Bronco volleyball team got their first win last Thursday night over Little Fork Big Falls. While I was laying in a hospital bed, I got to watch it on my phone. And it was pretty exciting. It was pretty exciting match, considering that it had to go 5 sets in the whole 9 yards. But Sarah Peterson, congratulations to her. Her first win as a Bronco head coach. Of course, remember she was a Viking head coach many years ago.
Oh, that's true. I forgot.
And so I'm sure there was a little whatever there during that match, wanting to win against her former team and everything else. So congratulations to her and to the girls and getting a set win there. Lost to Hibbing last night, Tuesday night, 3-0. And I think they're off until next week when they host Chisholm on Tuesday in Virginia. No, that's not right. Chisholm and somebody at home next week. So, and of course the radio station's been doing a lot of the games on TV, so you can see those on Midco Channel 7 and also on YouTube. So make sure, I know you can't go watch them live, but you can watch them live on your computer, and that's the new wave.
That's the new wave.
The new way of doing things.
It sure is.
3 girls got named all section for the girls swimming and diving team. Emma Erickson and Heben Pelland, and also oh my gosh, Bilbin. Jillian. Sorry, Jillian, I apologize. All I could think of was Jasmine, and I knew it wasn't that Jillian Bilbin, who's just a 9th grader.
Ooh.
So a few more years of Miss Bilbin swimming around. We'll see what she can do. I think, don't quote me on this, but she got, I think, 4th place in the 50 or 5th place in the 50 in the section. Who knows? Maybe a trip to state in a few years. So keep up the good work there, and fun to watch. And of course, not next Monday the 16th, but the following Monday the 23rd, boys basketball and boys hockey practice is scheduled to start if things go right. So we're drifting into the winter season. So we'll see what happens. What else you got written down there?
Well, I got a couple things, but first off, I want to show LeBron James.
Oh my gosh, it's still full.
Well, yeah,
he didn't eat the Wheaties.
He's
out
on
of
the
it yet.
Wheaties, and I'm going to tell this story. Bronco was one time interviewed by a newspaper writer, and he says, "Do you ever get calls from kids?" And he says, "Yeah. Well, what do they ask you?" And he says, "Well, how do I become a better football player?" And Bronco says, "Well, that's easy. Eat your Wheaties." And so when I have a bowl of Wheaties, which I really like, I think about Bronco, and I've been looking at Serena Williams for the last few years. So LeBron, that's his new package, and
There
so
you go.
hey, well deserved.
Well deserved.
The other thing, of course, today, Tim, is Veterans Day, and we've talked about this the other day when we came up with Mikey Jensen being in Afghanistan and a major in the military. You take a look and it's just, we have had so many, I've got to know so many people that have served in the armed services. I never did. But many are still serving today. A good many of them are former Broncos. We've been producing service people in this community, in this town, I know, since 1938, when Baggs and Bill and all the rest of those guys graduated and went off to the Marine Corps. Baggs' brother, Wally Hagelin, was he was a corpsman on Iwo Jima. He was in the Navy, but he went with the Marines, and he was a corpsman on Iwo Jima. And these are the products that Falls High School and the community and Bronco Sports have really put out. So these are high quality men and women, and we've had the opportunity to coach a lot of these. But maybe as a nation we can agree that we owe these people at least a small debt of gratitude or a thank you. And how
about a big one?
Yeah. What can I say? I called my veteran this morning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It seems even more interesting, more necessary, I think is the right word, as we keep going through some difficult times and everything else to remember our fallen and those that have gone before us. So
I just got a couple of things to go through here. Is our obituaries.
Holy smokes! It's
Tom Heinsohn, 86 years old, coach for the Celtics, a Hall of Famer at the Celtics, 4 decades as a color commentator, just like me. Of course, I've had 4 years. He played with Havlicek, Kuzi, KC, and Sam Jones. They must have been brothers, and of course, at center they had Bill Russell. And, what a team, and I remember these guys so well. And then Heinsohn became coach, and then after that, he just became a gruff cigar smoker. Rah, 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 rah. He got that from Red Auerbach, I'm sure.
Got that from Red, you bet.
But anyway, Heinsohn left us at the age of 86. Really a real great guy. Billy Tubbs, longtime Oklahoma coach, he passed away. Herb Adderley. In my day, he was as good a defensive back as there was, and he was a Hall of Famer, and played for Vinny Lombardi, and Lombardi called him the best defensive back in football.
Okay.
I can't fight with that. And then Jimmy Orr. Jimmy Orr was a receiver, wide receiver, whatever they called him wide then, for Johnny U.
Okay.
And so he played for the Colts, and Johnny U and Jimmy Orr. They're a pretty good combination. So Raymond Berry on the other side.
Absolutely.
No wonder they won world championships. They were actually pretty good. And then, as a last one, I got to talk about my friend. I think I have it here. A great Bronco. This is a friend of ours that we lost a few weeks ago. This is Dave Trumpeter. Bronco from 1950, graduated class in 1950, and taught here for 35 years. And he says, Local politics and a 4 p.m. daily nip of brandy were among the constants in his life. So he's not with us anymore, and they will have a celebration for him sometime in April. But Dave Trumpeter, I'm going to miss him. He was a true friend of mine and a real character.
Just a real character. That's for sure. No doubt about it.
That's all the good news I hate to send with the old bit. But these are celebrations, and when you spent any time with Trumpeter, it was a celebration.
Yeah.
Every time. So yeah, great people.
Well, and I got to end with my dad.
Yes, and you got to end with your dad,
who joined the ranks, and well, you got to meet him a few times.
Yes, I did.
Well, roasting a pig or having a beer or whatever, and so hopefully he's sitting up there yanking and pulling for us and doing those things. But
yeah, he had a real thing for his son. So I tell you what, he was a good guy, and I saw him at that pig roast out at Rainier, and I thought, oh my. I'll bet you he was something when he was 50 years old.
Yeah, we got to watch some videos and obviously look at some pictures, and I was absolutely stunned, I guess, that when I look at when this was like from 25 years ago, that my dad actually like had meat on his bones. I mean, he was a dairy farmer, so you had to have some mass there to do those things. I didn't remember him ever being, and he was nowhere close to heavy and nowhere close to like what I am. But he was round a little bit, and I'm like, wow, I didn't remember that. And over the past, I'll say 15 years, that he's been so skinny, as I would call him, and whatever else. So. It was a good celebration. We had we got to see some family and friends, and you hate to have to do that for a funeral, but sometimes that's how you get together and get to see how everybody's faring, and so.
Oh no, he raised a fine family, and hey, good men are hard to replace. That's for sure.
Yep. So well, does that wrap her up?
I think that pretty much does it for me. I've been spending all day watching Band of Brothers and writing out my script, so it's been a pretty good day.
It's been a very good day.
We got the Bronco game tomorrow night, and then the Gophers on Friday, and who knows what the weekend will bring. But
I'm sure there'll be a little football.
I suspect there
will.
I
suspect so.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for watching.